And I want to first of all welcome Councilmember Jennifer Reynolds and thank her. I appreciate her for being here. I also want to give a shout out to Tates Creek High School football coach, Jonathan Hawk, back there. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. So today we're taking another important step forward in our work to stop gun violence among young people. I'm joined today by Divine Karama and Larry Johnson, our One Lexington team. They're both here this morning. And so just to remind everyone, the overall goal of One Lexington is to leverage community resources to reduce gun violence involving young people, ages 13 through 29. And we're very happy to report that One Lexington is starting to make progress. So far this year, we have 50% fewer homicide victims in that age range of 13 to 29 than last year. Today, we're announcing the start of the One Lexington Gun Violence Prevention Grant Program. This program provides small program grants for Lexington youth who have been affected by gun violence, stipends for volunteer street outreach workers, mini grants to be distributed through schools, and funds for nonprofit violence prevention programs. Government's job isn't to reinvent the wheel, but to remove barriers and support grassroots people and organizations that are already involved doing this work of violence prevention. This is the first year for these grants. I put $150,000 into our budget for this program, which will be allocated in partnership with Community Action Council. Nonprofit organizations can apply for grants up to $7,000 in support. In addition, today I'm announcing that the city has received a $30,000 grant from Cities United, a national nonprofit that has been working with us to develop a strategic plan for reducing gun violence. In developing this plan, we identified two gaps in services: victim services and reentry services. Cities United is helping us bridge those gaps through a $30,000 grant that will be used to support services for victims of gun violence and programs for those who are leaving our jail. Now, I want us to hear from Divine Karama, our director of One Lexington. Divine, welcome to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. How y'all doing?
Fine.
Good. First and foremost, just obviously remembering those that we've lost to gun violence, and then also keeping in our prayers those that have been impacted and survivors that are still dealing with it each and every day. Their journey, what they're going through, is what informs our work that we do every day. We can't do it without our connection to them, so we want to keep them in our prayers. The mayor pretty much said everything. This is huge. We've been fighting for this for over a year. My first day in this position, I told Tyler, this is something that we have to do. My background comes from being a grassroots organizer, a director of a local nonprofit. And the way that the model was previously is any issue that was impacting underserved communities or communities of color, oftentimes you would elevate somebody into a position that had all the skills to do a great job at that position, but oftentimes they may lack that connection to the community that they're trying to serve. And so usually what they do is they would give me a call or or GO or somebody who is connected to that population, and we would come in and help them out. But unfortunately, because of the way the system was designed, these individuals who were providing these services, these life-changing services, and in some cases putting their own life at risk, they were struggling themselves, trying to feed their family and figuring things out day to day. And so I always told myself if I ever got in a leadership position of any kind, that I would try to adjust that model a little bit. And this grant is the first step in doing that, putting resources directly in the hands of organizations that are already doing the work. And we have a lot of great organizations and individuals right here in Lexington, grassroots, pounding the pavement each and every day, doing the work, but they need to be amplified. We got youth coaches, we got people that work with victims and survivors. And so it's time for us to get the resources in the hands of those with the lived experience, those with those that are our peers, and those that are doing the work. And then secondly, when I was praying last night, all I kept thanking God for was just how on time this opportunity is, because, and Larry is going to speak to this in a little bit, but for the last year, we've been working on a citywide gun violence reduction plan with Cities United. And not just Cities United, but several community partners, law enforcement, Fayette County Public Schools, nonprofits, everything. And we're going to be unveiling that hopefully in the next couple weeks. But when I was overlooking the plan that all these community partners helped us build, when I looked at all the evidence-based research that Larry and I are crunching numbers and researching every day, this grant will help amplify these organizations to provide the very services that are data-based, the very services that are in our strategic plan. And that's what makes me happy. This just isn't us throwing money anywhere. This money is going to individuals and organizations that can help us keep our community safe. And to me, that makes my heart smile. And so I don't know if it's something to celebrate. I feel uncomfortable saying celebrate when we're talking about people losing their lives, but it's definitely something to feel better about. And so the application is in the process of being completed, and we can't wait to give this opportunity to the community. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's got my rhyme.
Thank you very much, Divine. Now we're going to hear from Larry Johnson. Larry is my community response coordinator for One Lexington, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about the Cities United grant. Larry?
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
Thank you. Cities United is an organization that partners with about 130 other cities in helping them to reduce gun violence by reimagining public safety. We've been a Cities United partner since 2014, and we've partnered with them on various efforts and have benefited from that partnership. But the latest has been the development of our strategic plan. As Divine said, we've been working with Cities United for the last year, along with various ones of our community partners in the justice system, our CBOs, throughout the public sector. We all come together to develop a 3-year plan for how we will address violence in Lexington among young people ages 13 to 29 years old. We finalized pretty much that plan, and it should be published within the next couple of weeks. In that plan, we worked to identify gaps in our efforts, and a couple of those gaps were in reentry. How do we take young people who have been involved in the system, some of whom who have been detained and are coming back into society's normal environment, back into their schools? How do we work with them to deal with the trauma? How do we work with them to deal with stabilization? We have obtained, we'll be receiving $30,000 from Cities United to help us address reentry, $15,000 for reentry and $15,000 for victim services. So we're very, very excited about that, in addition to what the mayor and the council have provided with the $150,000. That's an additional $30,000 that we'll be receiving. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Larry. It's no secret that both Divine and Larry have a tough job, and they continue to move us forward in this area. You know, overall, it's a very interesting and complex dynamic. Overall, in Lexington, the category of violent crime continues on a downward trend. Yesterday, I saw the numbers, and we're right at about 2% decrease. We still, of course, have challenges, and this is what they're all about. And as Divine said, this is, we hesitate to use the word celebrate, but this is a pivotal moment because other entities now are telling us, we want to partner with you. We want to give you some funds to do this work. So with the efforts of One Lexington, our police department, our partners throughout the community, who are many, social work, our mental health professionals, our experts in domestic violence, this is the real source of where our work will be. And these partnerships are critical, and we're working on this every day. So I want to thank every one of you for being here for this announcement. Both Divine and Larry are available for questions, as well as myself. So do you have any questions? Don't be shy.
I know you talked a little bit about domestic violence. I know you guys said that 50%, you guys have the numbers down. But are we doing anything to reduce the gun violence? I mean, the domestic violence numbers. This is huge for that, but we're obviously seeing an increase in youth violence. How are we going to kind of pivot to domestic?
This is where the complexity of homicides comes in. It's not one straight thing. So here in Lexington, about a third of our homicides are directly related to domestic violence. And if you all pay attention to the news, obviously, Louisville came out today and talked about their huge increase in domestic violence-related homicides. We just last week, so let me go back a minute. About June this summer, June and July, it became apparent to me that we needed to ramp up our efforts around mental health, because many of these violence issues have a mental health component. And so I met with quite a few partners back then to gather information with them about what they thought we could do. So last week we had our first big partnership meeting on the work group for mental health issues, and it involves New Vista, University of Kentucky, Eastern State Hospital, our police, our fire, many, many partners, of course, One Lexington. And we are determined to go a different way, a better way about mental health. And one of the first things we're going to do there is to do a community review to see where our resources are and where our gaps are, so we know where to start. And did you want to talk again, Larry, about domestic violence?
We have also been meeting, when we had that meeting with mental health, we began to realize that domestic violence was an issue, and that mental health and domestic violence were not exactly the same thing. So we're working with the mental health community, but we've also been working very, very closely over the last few months with the Domestic and Sexual Violence Prevention Council. We've been working very closely with them. We're about to announce and kick off a campaign to address domestic violence in various ways. We've come up with about a first-year plan, a second-year plan, and a third-year plan. And we'll be announcing those really soon. But we have been meeting continuously with that council. In fact, we're having weekly meetings right now with the Domestic and Sexual Violence Prevention Council.
It's an all-out effort.
It's an all-out.
Yeah. What else? Any other questions?
Can you talk a little bit more about some of the specific goals to help victims of violence and how you're looking to support people that are being in jail?
Do you want to have a shot
Sure,
at that
if you don't
first?
mind. Thank you. Great question. Obviously, not getting too far into specifics because of the nature of that support, but sometimes it is relocation, families not feeling safe, or imagine having to walk back into a house where a loved one was shot and killed. And so sometimes it's just the triggering, the impact that living in that space can have. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's mental health services. Quite a few of the victims that Larry and I talk to each and every week, prior to being impacted by gun violence, they were working a full-time job, living in a great house, life was great. But then when you lose a loved one like that, that trauma, and through that grieving process, it could lead to depression. We've seen survivors lose their job because of that depression. We've seen them pick up some habits because of that grieving process. And so how can we help them to navigate that? And then obviously too, our work group that we work with each and every week, our violence intervention group, which is made of Fayette County Public Schools, which is made of the justice system, which is made of parole and probation, law enforcement. We come together each week and we discuss those that have been impacted by gun violence the week prior and what kind of resources can we provide for them. I think a Handle with Care with Fayette County Public Schools. Anytime a young person is impacted by gun violence or is directly impacted within their household, they send out a Handle with Care, which is wraparound services for those young people. And so to me, and this is just my opinion, and I don't mean this as a city, but I think community-wide, we look at this issue oftentimes in numbers, and it's understandable. I get it, right? That's the boogeyman, right? We're already at this number. We're surpassing this number, but we are forgetting about people. There are people that are heavily impacted and their lives will never be the same. And so to me, victim support is very, very important. And I'll close with this. Even when you think of retaliatory violence, sometimes supporting survivors of gun violence can have an impact on whether that family wants to retaliate or not. And so it's just helping them navigate the process. And so that's a big part of what we do, but more importantly, our community partners. There's a lot of great community partners that focus specifically on victims, and hopefully through this grant program, we can amplify those efforts. And one thing that we didn't mention, thanks to the mayor and the council members for approving it, but even programming, youth programming for young people that have been impacted by gun violence or have parents that are incarcerated. And so we understand the statistics that having family members within your household that are incarcerated. How can we support those youth too? And so victim services is an important part of the work that we do.
The other piece of your question, I think, was reentry. The old model says you spend your time in jail for whatever the crime was, and then you get released, right? What we understand is that that is no longer a viable approach. And so while people are in our jail, they need to go ahead and be given some of the skills, services to help them take a different path when they get out of jail. Any other questions?
Last question, I'm sorry. I
No
know you
worries.
said the money would be available for grassroots organizations. How do you guys plan to, reach out to them to let them know that, hey, this money is available for you all?
Sure. So yes, and it'll be for 501c3 nonprofit organizations. To be honest, we already have a great relationship with most of the people that will probably be applying for this because we have so many community partners that we're already working with. So it'll start there, just with that relationship. But using social media, just all the other avenues that you would normally use to get the word out. But I think the thing that we got is that partnership and relationship with so many of these communities or so many of these organizations within the community. And so we're going to go on a big campaign because we want everybody who is interested in this work and that is doing this work to know about this opportunity. And this is going to be annual. And we're going to be on it's going to be a short cycle, right? Because we're going to come back again, hopefully in the spring with this same opportunity. And this is going to be every year. And so.
And we want you to be a part of that campaign. This news conference is to make sure that we get that information out there. So we're asking you to help us get the word out that there is now financial assistance available through the government to help expand the work that's already being done, and maybe even to introduce us to some innovative methods. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.